All right, my name is Doug Purdy, and this is my good friend Chris Sells.
Hi.
I am referential, and he is integrity. All right. So let's go ahead and get started.
That means I'm supposed to keep you from lying.
Just keep
today?
going. Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
All right, great. We've already done this part.
Yes, we have.
We've changed the name of our title. We've decided to embrace modeling. We hear it's an important thing.
We've heard good things.
We've heard good things about modeling.
Yes,
so
yes, we have.
This data thing seems like it's overblown. I'm going to go embrace modeling. All right, so great. So here's the first thing, T-shirts. We want to have a little fun with this session. I had to do a keynote yesterday, and they told me I wasn't allowed to be funny, which was not very hard for me.
Yeah, I was going to say, that doesn't sound like, yeah.
Okay, great. So what we're going to do is we are live tweeting.
Yes.
Actually, audience participation. If you have feedback for us, please send it to #SQLmodeling. Chris, would you like to show them how we're going to be monitoring this feedback throughout?
Absolutely. This is Quadrant, the tool that you've come here this morning to see. And here in the bottom right, this is just a standard view over data in the database. So whatever happens to be in the database shows up here. So this is a family show, people. So
yes, please. It is. Go ahead and every time Chris hits F5, we should get an update.
Oh, yeah.
We'll get an update because we have, it's a browser-like model. Great, there we go. So as we keep going, we'll repeatedly go back to this thing. We'll get some feedback from the audience. You can help test drive. And we believe, this is all about participation.
This is a social media talk.
Yeah, that's great.
Absolutely.
Next. All right, great. So let's go back to the slides.
So long as I shut up is what you're saying.
Yes, you be quiet. All right, great. So where are we? This is a framing picture you will see in all the data and modeling talks that we've been giving here. Don and Chris showed this yesterday. I believe Sham showed this yesterday. Although I don't know how you know that because you were with me during his talk.
Yes, but I heard good things.
Okay, great. And what we have here is the common stack that we have across both data and modeling. You see SQL Azure. We'll be showing some of SQL Azure off here in just a few moments. SQL Server, which is near and dear to our heart, as well as SQL Server modeling services, which is at the bottom here. You may have heard us mention this during the keynote, where we talked about the SQL Server repository, SQL Server modeling services repository. We gave that an official name here at this PDC. Hey, Bob Muglia is here. Now I'm. Now,
whoa.
Okay, now tone it down. Shh.
Best behavior, everyone.
And so we named that the repository. And then you see ... So if there's any other databases that you're using other than SQL Server, we call them ... And so should you. Above that, we have the wonderful, the incredible, the amazing .NET framework. You have ADO.NET, which is the wonderful data access technology that we all know and love and that's dear to our heart. Next to that is M and EDM. You'll be seeing, Don and Chris actually talked a little bit about this yesterday. Don has a talk immediately after this. It's one door over.
Yep.
And he'll be talking more about the M language. And what Don and Chris talked about yesterday was the fact that we have brought M, this modeling language, a textual, developer-friendly language for you to write schemas, values, queries, functions, etc., together with EDM. How many of you use EDM, EF, something? Great, love to see that. Next year it will be 100%. If not, send us a tweet and we'll fix whatever's wrong with it.
Absolutely.
But M will become the language for EDM. It is the textual surface syntax for EDMX. For those of you that are familiar with EDM and EF, which is about half the audience here, you know that there is an XML file that describes your model. M now is a replacement for that XML file. Doesn't mean your XML investment in that file goes away at all. Oh, there's claps. Go ahead. Yes. We love DSLs, and M is a fantastic DSL over top of the entity data model. We're very excited about this development. We've been getting a lot of positive customer feedback about this. Developers love text. Sometimes that text can be an XML, but the more complex you get, XML becomes a human hostile language, not a human friendly language.
Even developer humans.
Even developer humans, that's right. Above that layer is the wonderful entity framework as well as data services. Two things of note that we've talked about here, this PDC, that I want to reiterate. First, Scott talked about this today very briefly. We have renamed ADO.NET Data Services, and the reason we have done that, we've renamed it to WCF Data Services. And the reason we have done that is that WCF is the part of the .NET framework, part of Windows, that contains the core assets for communication between tiers and for core interoperability. And we wanted to make sure there was some developer confusion out in the marketplace.
Wait, we wanted to make sure there was developer
No, we wanted to make sure there wasn't developer
That
confusion.
does seem like how we do it,
Yeah,
though,
sorry.
isn't it? The other way?
Remember, Bob's in the audience.
Hi, Bob. Hi.
Okay, great. So what we've done is we have taken RIA services and data services, and all of those fall under the heading of WCF now. But nevertheless, data service is still the way that you take your EDM model, take your core relational database information, and expose that in a RESTful, friendly way. Furthermore, one of the things we announced yesterday, and it's been reiterated throughout the keynotes, even today by Scott, was this thing called the Open Data Protocol, or OData. Don and Chris spent a lot of time talking about that yesterday. We're very excited about OData. Basically what that is a set of extensions that have organically grown up as we have taken data services to things like SharePoint, and to things like reporting services, and to things like Excel. And so we're excited about it, and we really encourage folks to go take a look at OData and start to leverage that inside of their applications. And Pablo's doing a great talk right after this at 3 o'clock.
All about OData.
All about OData.
And in fact, when Scott was up on stage and he was showing off like the bulge feature and he's got his mouth all big like that, it was like his OData face right there.
Yep. Yes. Okay, great. No tweets, please. And then above that, we have our wonderful, fantastic developer assets in terms of tools. We have Visual Studio, as well as we have Quadrant. And so what we're going to be talking about today are we're utilizing these wonderful colors of orange, Visual Studio, Quadrant, and M and EDM. Fantastic. All right. Can we check the tweets, see what people think so far?
I don't know if that's such a good idea.
Let's
Bob's
find
in the
out.
audience.
Bob, if you'd like to tweet us. Quadrant is like, oh, this is a good question.
Ooh.
Quadrant is, should shut this off now. Okay, great. All right, so just a little bit of context, and then we'll jump into code as fast as we can. First, I want to set some context. Long time ago, at this thing called the SOA and BP conference, we announced this initiative called Oslo. Oslo was a multi-year, multi-product vision that spanned Visual Studio, BizTalk, Windows Server,
And it was SOA of all kinds.
and floor wax.
Yes, and a dessert topping. Yes.
Great. So that was in 2007, but in all honesty, what we were looking at is how could we make it easier for developers to approach our platform and build distributed applications. All of you know we write real applications that are complex. We know that job is very difficult and very hard. We wanted to provide you the tools, the languages, and the frameworks to make that easier. And we always knew it was going to take a long time. We knew it was many years. We knew it was going to be many products that we needed to impact. But we announced it. We're not afraid of big challenges, and we went after it, and we called that Oslo. Next, please. In 2008, when you came here, we had done something pretty interesting. We had taken various aspects of Oslo that had already shown that we could get them into a product stream and move them out. Let me give you an example of that. The brand new workflow engine that you see in .NET Framework 4.0, that came out of Oslo. .NET Services, which is the service bus, the relay service, all those things, that came out of the Oslo effort as well. The most important thing, and the thing that sort of resonates the most, at least with this audience here at this PDC, is this notion of the app fabric. It used to be called Dublin, and there's a variety of other things that we have as well. But the app fabric, in and of itself, came out of this initiative of Oslo. And so we're very happy about the progress we had made on a variety of different fronts there. But when we came here to 2008, right or wrong, we decided to keep that name and just apply it to the modeling platform.
And then just change the meaning.
Exactly. Because we're really good at that.
And yes, exactly right. We didn't confuse anyone.
No, not at all. Not the least of which me.
Everyone followed right along.
They followed right along. Anyway, so in 2008, you heard me and others stand up and say Oslo was M, the repository, and the Quadrant.
There's the one.
Great. All right, let's go to the next one. So what we've done is we've taken those Oslo components. We realized that the great affiliation of the work that we've been doing around modeling and data, we made a decision that that's going to be part of our core information data platform offering, which is SQL Server. And the name for Oslo was SQL Server Modeling, and we're going to be talking a lot about those technologies today. We're excited about this because what this means is everything that we've been talking about will ship in a future version of SQL Server. And when you get the opportunity to ship in something like SQL Server and add value to customers like that, that's something you have to be excited about.
Well, and plus anyone who is a resident of a certain city in Norway is also excited because we have thank you, Lars.
Oh wow, we have several
Thank you.
Oslodians.
Yes. So that's handy. So you guys, when you tweet, can go back to tweeting about what's cool in the city. So yeah, that's pretty handy.
Yeah, it's made our Twitter searches much easier.
Yes, it has.
Okay, great.
Is how we were able to implement this.
Great. So how are we doing? Let's go ahead and hit F5.
I did F5.
So those of you that are joining us late, we are live tweeting. We're monitoring right now inside of Quadrant. We just hit F5. This is running a very simple query.
And in fact,
Can we see the power of Quadrant right here? Can you run a light query? Can you do that?
Absolutely. What would you like to?
I would like to know things that have title, where value title equals Doug is cute.
How about? Yeah. Okay. That might narrow it down considerably.
Okay. This is.
Really? So you're pandering, right?
Yeah, see, no one loves me.
Well,
all right,
let's leave this here. Maybe someday somebody will think
my wife is watching. All right, great. Next, please. All right, great. So what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about M, which is an open data language. Let me talk about M really quickly. M is a language we have decided that we announced this actually the last PDC. We will release it underneath the OSP, which is the Open Specification Promise, which means anyone is open to implement it. In fact, today we have at least 2 implementations. There's ours.
Yes.
And there's a JavaScript one that's up on the web that I really like.
Yes, absolutely.
And for those of you aspiring entrepreneurs, other people who care about languages, I encourage you to come and build more. And we're having lots of conversations with folks in the industry about potentially implementing the language as we speak. But our implementation, I just want to stress this, M is an open data language. Anyone can implement it. We love the language. Let 1,000 flowers bloom. But our implementation of M is a part of SQL Server.
Yes.
And it will be shipping in a future release of SQL, and we're very excited about that. Would you like to go to the next slide?
I'm looking forward to the next slide.
Great. Quadrant, that is a developer tool for SQL Server. We're going to spend most of our time looking at M, looking at Quadrant. And we'll spend a bunch of time talking about how Quadrant really makes it easier for a developer to love and embrace and hug the database and want to love it. We oftentimes talk about how we have this asset of the database, and it's in a closet, and there's an armed guard outside of it, and people are scared of it, and they want you to be scared. And there's some DBA with it goes, halt. You can't come near this database. But we think there's a tremendous amount of power to be had inside of there. One way to think about it is a database is sort of like a mini computer 20 years ago, where no one wanted to let you touch that thing. And then Windows and PCs came out and really empowered a wide variety of people to be able to write interesting applications that took advantage of all that power. And we just have not done that to the database. We just haven't done it. And so one of the missions that we're on is unleashing the power of SQL Server and databases. And that's what Chris and I's mission in life is. And we're going to add a lot of value to customers in doing that.
And so I love the new marketing tagline.
You like that?
Quadrant, enabling hugs. What could be better? Come on.
You want to hug? You want to hug it out?
A little bit.
No, not yet.
Oh, rejected.
All right, great. So let's go ahead and get started.
Nobody thinks you're cute, man. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I noticed. Go ahead and take that query off. Can we just look at all of them? Let's see if somebody says I'm ugly. No, nobody. I think your program's broken. Yeah. All right, let's go to the next slide.
Yeah, it must be me. It can't be Twitter.
All right, so we're going to spend, with all that context setting, we're going to spend the rest of the time in code. Who likes code?
Woo-hoo.
Woo! You get a T-shirt.
Wow.
Oh, man, that row's getting them all. All right, great. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk you through how to create databases, navigate data, edit data, blah, 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 blah. Let's just go into Quadrant and take a look. Actually, no, let's go to Visual Studio.
Great.
Can we go to Visual? Do you even have Visual Studio open? How can you do that? All right, here we go. We're going to open up Visual Studio. How many of you are familiar with the Pet Shop application? Some? Great. Pet Shop is a reference application we released a long time ago. We love it inside of Microsoft because Pet Shop, what was it called? Pet Store. It was the J2EE Sun application, and it's where we took .NET, we took that thing, took it down to its core and showed how fast we were and awesome we were. So I love that. All right, great. So what we have here, can we open up the Solution Explorer, please?
If you're doing this anymore, maybe I don't want to hug. Yeah. But you want to? Yes.
I want to see the Solution Explorer, please.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. I believe we have 21 projects in this. Can you scroll all the way up to the top and let me see if my memory is correct? Oh, look at that. You can tell I've done this a lot. All right, great. So this is Pet Shop. Chris, could you do me a fantastic favor and hit F5, please? I'd like to run this application.
The magic finger. That worked for you.
Okay, great. Let's see what happens. Okay, it's launched Cassini. What do we call that now? Oh, it's called the ASP.NET Developer Server.
Yes, Cassini.
Otherwise Cassini.
Yes.
Okay. What?
I'm moving the mouse so it goes faster.
That's kind of like putting your hand into the water when you
Yeah, exactly. That makes it warm up.
It goes
Or,
faster.
you get to.
I'm in the shower, I turn it on and go like
Yeah,
this.
absolutely.
Okay, great. So let's see what happens. So we're going to go to localhost 2327 web.
Course. Yes.
Man, okay, great. So what's going on is we've taken this application, we are building it, it's an ASP.NET app, and what happened? We got an exception.
Dun, dun, dun.
We should probably do something about that.
Okay.
And why did we get an exception, Chris?
Well, as it says here, it cannot open the database MS Petshop 4 requested by the login.
So we need to create a database.
Well, maybe it's already here. Maybe we're just missing it.
You want to create a database? You're going to see whether or not it exists?
Yeah, exactly.
How are you going to do that?
Well, we can.
You don't know what you're doing, do you?
This is my first time with
Okay, great.
Quadrant.
All right, great. So what we've done here is we've opened up Quadrant, and here's the Quadrant tool, and Chris is going to see what local database exists. So this is a CTP drop. There is no magic going on here. Everything we're about to show you, you can go get the bits for, go play around with, and use to your heart's content.
Absolutely.
This is the first PDC that I've ever done this at. So this is a new feeling for me.
But MS Petshop 4 is not here.
MS Petshop 4 is not there. We need to go create MS Petshop 4.
Yes.
So how are we going to do that, Chris Sells?
Well, my preferred mechanism for doing such a thing is with a little language I like to call M.
Let's show some M. Great. So what Chris is going to open up is an M file. So for those of you that are familiar with what we've been doing in Oslo previously, as well as have downloaded the CTPs, you know that we had this fantastic little text editor called IntelliPad. What we've done in this CTP, actually I think most of it was done in the previous CTP and we've just continued that, is we have embedded IntelliPad directly inside of Quadrant itself. So now Quadrant is a first-class text environment, so you've got this great facility by which you can do lots of different queries, and we'll be spending a bunch of time talking about that. And you can also do text in first-class ways. And in fact, what we have here is we have a fantastic little module that describes our Petshop application, and we literally took this and we just grabbed a hold of the T-SQL, we ported it very quickly to M, and it was a much richer experience, which we'll be showing in just a few moments. But just to give you an example, Chris is going to show you some funny things. What are you going to type there? You created another field?
Yeah.
Logical?
Yes.
So Chris, what I would love to be able to do, one of the greatest features that customers loved about IntelliPad was the fact that I could be authoring an M, but I could see the T-SQL at the same time.
Great.
Could you right-click, please?
I can.
Or will you?
Yes.
Thank you. And show the SQL. Now you're about, what happened?
Well, we added a new field.
Okay. You need to make that logical.
I did make it logical.
And
I didn't make it
nullable. Okay.
optional.
Can you get me some more?
There
Okay,
you
great.
go.
There we go.
See?
All right, great. So, Chris, can you get us some more room over to the right? I want to show the power of this. Is one of my favorite features. It's called bump scrolling. So, one of the unique things about Quadrant is the reason we built Quadrant is because the database has so much information inside of it. I don't know how many of you actually tried to use a traditional tool in order to navigate a database. It's a very difficult thing to do. What we've done with Quadrant, we've spent an enormous amount of time actually going and looking at how people deal with large sets of data. And one of the things that we came out of with this was this thing that we call the infinite canvas, which you see here. And so what you have the ability to do is take all these work pads that you see on the screen, whether they're text, whether they're graphical, whether or not the data came from wherever it may be, and lay it out on this infinite canvas, and then be able to do very interesting things with it. For example, Chris, could you please zoom?
I will.
I want to see zoom. And where this is very interesting, you'll see in a few moments, is, I would like it to be useful. Go. We believe in go. But Chris, please go ahead and hit F12 if you would, please. F12 is this gesture that will zoom to extent. So what this does is give you an automatic map. A way to think about this, well, this is the way I talk about Quadrant a lot. It's World of Warcraft for data. And it really holds. Like if you think about all the metaphors that you get in a very immersive environment, we wanted to provide that for you for your data and to get a lot of value out of that. Chris, could you select a work pad, please, and hit F10? And what F10 does is it zooms to whatever the exact window is. And so what this allows you to do is very quickly, with two key gestures as well as the scroll mouse, and with having this infinite canvas, really get a good understanding of all the data that's going on inside of your application, your databases, whatever the data source may be. That's a way to think about it, is there's lots of data out in the world. How do I go navigate it? How do I go query it? Quadrant is the tool to allow you to do that. And we're very excited about it, particularly when we want more and more and more of that data in SQL Server. All right, great. Now what we want to do with this is we want to show off, great, so you're showing the M.
Yep.
Can we see both side by side?
Yes, we can.
Can you make that happen for me?
I can.
Okay.
No, that's not good enough.
Okay. All right, so go ahead and scroll down. So this is the M. We'll sort of look at all the different schemas. So can you scroll down on category type? That's fantastic. You can start to see how we're utilizing constraints. You can see where M is a far more friendly language for you to interact with data than what you traditionally would have with T-SQL. Now, don't get me wrong. T-SQL is a fantastic language. We love T-SQL. But the right way to think about M is the VB for the database. M is VB for the data, which we love. If you don't like VB, then you don't have a heart deep inside. You just don't. You're dead inside.
They're all Grinches if they don't like.
Yeah, that's right. You don't do it for the Republic.
Viva la revolution!
So we love T-SQL, don't get us wrong. And T-SQL is a fantastic, powerful language. The way to think about that is it is C and C++ for the database. The beauty of what we've done with M is M, when it compiles, it does two very interesting things. First, it compiles the T-SQL, which you see right here. One of the things we just released in this latest CTP is if you go into Visual Studio, you create an M file, and you add that as part of your project, we'll also generate something else that happens to be very important to .NET developers. It's called classes.
Yeah.
So M is a way for you to logically describe your data models, get T-SQL out one end and your classes out of another. And we are investing in generating all those attributes that Scott Guthrie showed off today, the system.componentModel.data annotation attributes, so you can get validation across all your tiers. So the vision for us is that you can describe it in M, and you get your database, you get your middle tier classes, as well as validation on your client tier, all from one language, all in one file. And that's what we're trying to achieve with that. Oh, yes. Valid. Bob, I hope you're hearing this. Yeah, Bob gave the thumbs up. We're done. Let's go off stage now.
This is a yes.
Okay, great.
I always leave them wanting more.
Okay, great. So the next thing we're going to show is that M has a fantastic feature. Not only does it let you define values, it also lets you, schemas and queries, which we'll show. But one of the really cool features about it is the ability to show values. So what we have here is some test data. And this test data has a bunch of, as you guys know, databases have this crazy data model called the relational data model. Some of you may like it, some of you may hate it. I personally love it because it allows us to have an awesome query analyzer, QP. I love that thing. But one of the hard things that you'll see throughout is one of the reasons people don't really want to hug the database, just embrace it, is because you have all these crazy foreign key things that are just numbers and you don't really understand how to reason about it. But you'll see that M and Quadrant give you this first class ability to refer to things by logical names. So if you look up here, you see that we're inserting some items into the catalog. But you'll notice here product ID, which points to something else in a different table, a primary key. I'm actually referring to a biological name. And so if Chris, can you get rid of product 22 and go to the dots, please, and hit the dot? You'll see that we have all the different products by their name. Real bits, I told you, CTP, that was planned.
Wow. Actually, I haven't seen Quadrant do that in a very long time. I think it was saving up for.
It was saving up for us.
Yes.
Did you reset the Quadrant database?
I did.
Okay, great. One of the features you'll see in a second is Chris and I are actually going to kill Quadrant, and you'll see what a wonderful thing. If you had not reset it, it would have came back exactly where it was, and we could have shown them a feature, but you missed an opportunity.
Oh. Luckily, review season is over.
Okay, great. All right, so now we're back to where we began. Chris, could you please go back, open up the M file? Quadrant does have this feature, which I'll be talking about in a few moments, where we save all the state inside of a database. The Quadrant application is actually a database app, and we store everything that you see on the screen is in the database. And had Chris not hit yes there, it would have came up exactly the same way that we left it. And this applies even to data as you're editing, which we'll get to in a few moments. Okay, let's not try to do what we were doing before.
Okay.
Let's do this. Can you please insert this into the database?
Absolutely.
How we'll do this is we're going to say deploy. And we want to create a new database.
Oh, yes.
You want to say new database. That'd be fantastic. Let's call it MS Pet Shop 4, if we could, please.
Yep. Now, this is all the same exact schema and the same exact data that the original .NET.
That's right. So we didn't change the .NET application at all.
No.
What we did was we just simply went in and we said, wow, we can make this a little more user-friendly. We'll rewrite an M, and now you see this has been deployed to the database. Okay, Chris, can you please right-click and say Show SQL for me?
Yes, sir.
All right. Fantastic. Can we kind of line this up? We'll see how aesthetically pleasing you are. And let's go ahead and go up to View, and we want to show the database we've just created. Go to the Explorer, and then go ahead and pick MS Pet Shop. Can you expand that node, please? Thank you very much. All right, what you see here is you see the text, you see the SQL. Chris will get us a little more space. You see DBO has been created. Can you go ahead and open up DBO, if you would, please?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Now right-click on DBO and say Show Metadata. And then we want to view that as a diagram, if we could, schema diagram. And then let's drag that over there. Great. Now hit F12, my favorite key. All on one screen, I see my M, which is a user-friendly approach to writing down data. I see my SQL, which is what we emit to the underlying runtime. I see a nice tree view of the data that I have. Can you go ahead and drag out product, please, Chris, down on the lower right-hand corner? Product, down on the right-hand corner. I see all the test data that I have affiliated with my application, and I see a diagram of all my schema all in one consistent view available for you to navigate. And I can do that across any data set in the world. That's a powerful thing. There we go. They love the database.
They want to hug it?
They want to hug the database. When you leave here, I want you to, we'll have a little cylinder out there. You can hug it. All right, great.
A surrogate database.
A surrogate database.
Yes.
That's right. All right, fantastic. So what we want to start to show off now is some of the capabilities that we have inside of Quadrant in terms of views. So what we've shown is this textual view, this different representations all over the place. You've seen this environment that I can zoom, I can pan, I can scan. But what I want to start to do is show you the power that we have in terms of just basic views. So Chris, could you close everything but the table, please? Actually, keep the MS Pet Shop 4 thing open, if you would. I'm excited. All right, so here we have product. Now you'll notice a couple things about product, if you would. Chris, could you show some more, make it a little bigger?
Certainly.
Bigger? Big, I like big, right here, big. All right, so what you see here is very interesting. First, you see that at the very top we have a query bar. This query bar is just like the IE query bar, but it gives you the ability to drill in and do queries over whatever data set you're looking at right now. Let me give you an example. Chris, could you please add a hash to the end of product, please? What this is a little M keyword that says, please go get me the count. That just returns 31. Chris, remove the hash, please. Okay. What's that, sorry? Zoom. You know what? We should add that feature. And unlike using Windows Plus.
Well, we could use Windows Plus.
We could, but no, we don't.
All
see,
over the PDC.
You could use this feature, but we've taken that user feedback and put it into the tool directly. So what Chris is going to do is zoom in right there. Is that better? Fantastic. Only Quadrant can do this for you.
Yes,
Only
we
Quadrant.
invented zooming. Those bastards in Windows 7.
It's model-driven zooming.
Only Quadrant can do
Actually, I want to see this. Close Quadrant, please. Just close it.
I closed it.
Okay, great. Now open it back up again.
Okay.
I want to show you model-driven zooming. Let's see if this works. I have no idea. The dev team is probably rolling. Look at that!
Whoa. Wait. Here's the test. Here's the real test. We can show them that thing we were talking about.
Oh. What? Well, look, we just killed it. Okay, fine. Just kill it. But we want to do this later,
Wait,
too.
no, look.
Now we're ruining it.
Oh, I see.
No. The moment's passed. Let's go back. All right. All right. So you can see this is model-driven zooming. We store all that state in a database. And everything is in there. Literally, even the zoom setting is in there.
Yes.
Wouldn't you love that if you could reboot Windows and it just came back the way that it was? You know why Windows should bet on SQL Server.
I think so, too.
Okay,
I think we
great.
should rebuild Windows inside of Quadrant.
We all can dream.
Yes.
All right. The next thing we want to do is let's go and continue our query navigation. Chris, could you please say where value .name equals something interesting? I think you have to say capital N. No, don't take. Okay, look at this. Stop. Okay, what's going on here, for those of you that saw the text editor, you saw the red squiggly lines, you saw all that editing goodness. We have in every single window inside of Quadrant, what you're seeing right now, is the thing that you get inside of Visual Studio called the text editor that gives you red squigglies. Every window has that for the query bar. And so what we're writing there is M queries, but you're getting squiggles, you'll get statement completion, et cetera, right there inside of the query bar. And so what this is a fantastic way of navigating data. How many of you actually, when you navigate OMs, go in, say a class name, and go dot, down, 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 dot, down, 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 down.
Me?
I do it all the time.
That's how
Wouldn't you love to navigate your data the same exact way? Guess what? We're going to give you that feature. And so, I'd like that.
Yes.
Somebody's going to get a T-shirt afterwards. Okay, great. So let's go ahead and hit enter. Now what this is doing is running a query. So any view inside of Quadrant, you have a query bar that's available to you. You can drill into your data. It's a fantastic world to live in. Okay, great, Chris. Let's show more.
Okay.
What you want to do, choose? Choose is my favorite.
Yeah.
Now watch this. What we're going to do is we're going to use an M function called choose. And what this does is it selects a singleton. And go ahead and hit enter, please. What this does is show a very other interesting feature of Quadrant. The views are dynamic. So when we change the underlying data binding expression, it detects that you're no longer getting a set of records back, but rather you're getting a singleton, a single record back, and it switches the viewer to the property view. So you can do this at any time. So you can just say, you can see a whole huge bunch of data. You can just type in, I would like to see one of those things. Quadrant will be smart, detect it, and actually go in and show you just that one instance.
And in fact, it will show it as a singleton.
As a singleton, that's right.
View for
that's right.
Yes.
Great. So let's go ahead and remove all that stuff. And what we want to show now is some of the stock views that we have built in. And one of the coolest features in the world, you guys are going to love this feature. And if you don't, you're cold inside. All right. So
setting the expectation a little high.
a little high, that's great. All right, great. So what we want, that's my job. All right, what we want to do is start to show you some of the stock views we have built into the system. So Chris, show us what we got. Okay, I'd like to see a list, please. Lists seem useful. Interesting thing about this, in most tools where you go and you do a query over top of a table and you just ask for a list, what you would get in this view is a bunch of numbers, which are just the primary keys. That's not what you get with Quadrant. Why? Because Quadrant is reasonably smart, and we want to make it so relational data pops for you. We want to make it so people love relational data. And what's going on is, I don't know what, oh, Chris is doing tweets. What's going on is, we go, can you go back to my list view as I'm talking?
Yep.
Okay, great, thank you.
No.
I gotta revolt. What's going on is we go and we inspect the table, and we have a base query, and we say, what should we call the name of something? This is very similar to default name or display name that you may have seen on the Designer framework inside of the .NET framework or other frameworks that we have. And what we do here is we go and look at the table, and we say, is there any column there that has the word name on it? And if it is, then that's what we use for the name of the record. Now, this is just a query. You can go into Quadrant itself and change that. You can make this an arbitrary expression. You can do whatever the hell you'd like to do, and it's fully available to you. But we think this just tiny little feature makes the database so much more approachable for people. In fact, Chris, can you go ahead and pick tree, please? So this is a tree view showing you the primary key with the name, which is Pelican. Go ahead and drill down. Open one of those things out if you could for me, Chris. We're expanding, and now you can see all the relationships, and we're pulling the names out. We are literally navigating, and this works with graphs too. I don't know how many of you tried to embed graphs inside a relational database. It can be a little hairy. But this gives you an incredibly user-friendly view over top of all your relational data. And all you need to do is follow a simple heuristic, or if you already have existing heuristics, you can change Quadrant very simply to follow those heuristics throughout your data model. And this is something I have never seen in terms of a data navigation tool, and we're pretty happy with it. And the feedback we're getting, like the UML specification is about 500 tables or something like that. It's crazy, it's insane, but we love it. We embrace crazy and insane, we hold it. But we want to make it user-friendly to people. And so doing something like this made the UML domain so much more approachable. It's made our modeling, or rather our management data set that we have around how computers are laid out, how they manage. Looking at that data set in this kind of view is just a tremendous sort of mechanism to really drill in and understand what's going on.
So as one test, I actually heard one of our senior technical leaders say, when I want to browse a database, I just use Quadrant. I mean,
Yep.
We have passed that bar where people just want to use the tool.
That's great. All right, great. So we want to show a couple more views here really quickly. So Chris, could you go ahead and pick master detail. This is one of the most common views that people want to have. It's one of our most requested views over data in the world. What we have here is, now this is a very interesting thing that I want to get your minds to sort of wrap around. The way Quadrant does all these different things is via view composition. So what we do is we have some very simple stock views in the system, things like list, things like tree, things like table. And then we compose them together into interesting views. And we also give you the capability of doing that same thing, which we're about to show in a few moments. So what you see us doing here is we're doing a very simple view composition of two views. On the left-hand side is a list view. We compose that with our singleton viewer on the left-hand side, and then we flow the selection. So Chris, can you please select something? You'll see you get what you expect. But let me show you something very interesting. Chris, could you right-click, please, on item? You have to select it. There you go. Stop. What you see there is list, singleton, and then any node in the tree you can change the view for dynamically at runtime. So if you'll see here, this is just this list and item, but we can go view that same data that's embedded inside. We can compose a new view on top of it, and you have full control at runtime. Chris, can we please see that as a table? So now you see, when we select this, the selection will flow all the way through. So what am I seeing? I'm seeing a master detail view over data. I didn't write a line of code. You know, we see all these, forms over data applications, and you see people write all these applications. Literally, you got to write all this apps data just to get into the database.
So I've written a couple of GUI books, and it takes me pages and pages and pages to tell them how to write the code to make this work.
Just this view.
Just this.
Just this view.
Yes.
And we provide it for you out of the box with Quadrant. But let's imagine we didn't. Let's imagine we didn't. How would we go construct one of these views in Quadrant? Chris, could you please close this? What we're going to do is we are going to build that same exact view for you without writing a line of code. So imagine we had never, ever, ever had those things. And how we're going to do it is based on these simple primitives that we have in the system. So Chris, could you please drag out product again? Open up DBO and drag out product. Great. All right, so here we have product. Now, Chris, what we want to do is I want to look at this as a list, please. Okay. Now, Chris, could you drag out Pelican off to the other side? All right, now what do we have here? On one side, we have a list view. On the other side, we have a singleton. Chris, can you hold down the control key and then move that singleton view directly and attach it to the side? Go ahead and click on one of those, Chris. Master detail right there. No code. Look, Mom, no code.
That's pretty cool.
Don't you feel it? I do. You want to hug it out?
No, okay. No, I'm not falling for that again.
Okay, great. But there's more.
Oh.
There is more. Okay, great. So what you've seen here is just the stock views. You'll see in a few moments we can really take this further. So you can do this all day long. In fact, we just built that view. Chris, could you please go make the item into a table again, please? And so you'll see all those basic pieces of functionality are still available to you. Go ahead and make that a table, just like what we had before. And you'll notice, look in the upper right-hand corner. All the other views are still available for me. Chris, could you pick one of those? Just pick one, go to it. There's a tree view. Now go back to the new composite, if you would, please. New composite. It's available for you at any given time. So not only did you build it, we persisted it into our database, so when you come back and you look at this data set, that view's available for you as well. All right, great. Oh, more claps. I like it.
You know, you keep talking about the wonderful persistence that Quadrant does, and
we'll show that off in a second.
All right.
Okay, great. So the next thing people say to us, great, Doug, whatever, I love the tool. It probably only works with 7 tables. Or, Doug, I bet it can't scale up to millions of rows. Well, let's see about that, Chris.
Okay.
Can we go ahead and open up a database that has more than a trivial amount of data?
We have a database here called perfdb.
Okay, great.
Just for this.
Fantastic. So what we've done here is we've actually tested this up to 9 million rows in a variety of different things and large schemas as well. But I just want to show this off really quickly because we get this a lot. People go, that's a very rich tool. I love the thing. But it cannot possibly scale up to the data sets that I use. So what we have here is a very simple table, but I want to show something off here. All those query functionality, all those view features are all here, but here's one of the cool things. Try to implement this in your application. Chris?
You want to show them how many rows we have?
Yes, do pound. This will prove how many there are. There's 2 million rows here. Go ahead and remove that. Now, Chris has a scroll mouse. Chris, could you use the scroll mouse, please? Scroll. Smooth. Just do it. Fast, 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 fast. Doing this may seem like it's a trivial action, and it is a trivial action, but to actually implement it is hard. And so we're actually doing framing, right? Page, 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 page as we go through. So this gives you an idea about the virtualization work that we had to put in the tool from the get-go to support data sets of this size. So go get Quadrant, start to leverage and play around with this stuff, and apply it to the data sets, and give us feedback if it's not doing what it needs to do. Because we want this to scale to the most massive amounts of data. And we're doing as much work as we can in that space. OK, great. So what we want to do now, Chris, is we want to run this application. We've created the database. Can you go back into Visual Studio, if you would, please, and hit F5? How much time do we have left? We're going to make it. I got a feeling.
Minutes.
Oh, they have a clock on us. OK, so now we've created the database. What happened?
We have a different exception.
A different exception. We've made progress.
Yes.
You and I can tell we grew up in the VB school of development.
Cannot open database, MS Pet Shop 4, requested by the login. The login failed.
OK, so what ended up happening is this. What's that?
Yeah.
The hat trick. Oh, yeah, a hockey fan. All right, great. So what we're going to do is, it turns out that the way the Pet Shop app was built, they use SQL security. I love SQL security. But what happened is we need to configure that SQL security. And this is another feature of Quadrant. As I said before, we love M. We think M's the VB for the database. But T-SQL is the C, C++ for the database. We want Quadrant to support that as well. So what Chris is going to do is we have a T-SQL console fully available for you. It's just a workpad that you can do whatever you'd like to do. Think about this as SQLcon for the most part.
Yeah. SQL command, absolutely.
And what Chris just did is he just entered in some T-SQL, executed it, and all this did was run a couple stored procedures to create the users that we need. So here's the thing. If M isn't good enough for you, if M is not expressive enough for you, first, send me mail. Second, you can always drop into T-SQL.
Yeah.
And that's a feature, not a bug. All right. OK, so let's go ahead and run the app, and it should work now.
Well, we could go for the hat trick.
We could. Let's see what happens. I have faith. Aha, there it is. So we have built a database in Quadrant, showing you all the great capabilities in a real .NET sort of scenario of where you would want to interact with the database. And you can see here's the Pet Shop application. We'll come back to that in a few moments. Chris, we're running out of time. Let's go back to Quadrant, please. Thank you. OK. So the next thing we want to do is we want to show off some of the editing capabilities that are inside of Quadrant. You'll see this theme coming up again and again and again with Quadrant. First, a lot of times you have to write applications just to interact with a relational database. First, a lot of you have to go write an app in order to do a master detail view. We've just shown where you don't need to run a line of code in order to get that. Furthermore, many of you have to write code in order to be able to edit the database. And the reason you have to do that is because of referential integrity. Because of the fact that I may have relationships between these things, constraints between these things, and I need to get everything wired up in exactly the right order in order to be able to commit it to the database. Furthermore, you're dealing with this optimistic concurrency model. Hopefully, you're dealing with an optimistic concurrency model. If you're not, we should talk. And it's just very hard to deal with concurrency issues, et cetera. But Quadrant can help in that regard, too. So our goal is to take some of the common issues that people need to write apps for and to give you a tool that you can have a lot of the tools just built in there for you, and you can get going with your data set. OK, how are we doing on the tweets?
They're still here.
OK, great. They're just waiting for the shirts. All right, go back. Go back, please, if you would. OK, great. So let's go ahead and pull out product. Chris, if you would, please. OK, great. So what we want to do here is we want to make a change to Pelican. Can you zoom for our friends in the back using the fantastic zoom feature of Quadrant, model-driven zoom? OK, great. Can you see it? Thank you. Can we please change that to Pelican 2? All right, can you please zoom in on that tiny little asterisk? Can you zoom on that? If you notice here, this is how we denote that a record has been edited inside of Quadrant. Go ahead and zoom back out, please. If you hit F10, it'll do it for you automatically, because it loves you. And zoom in a little bit more. Now what we're going to do is we are going to commit that record to the database. This is high magic. Are you ready for it? Watch this miraculous thing that's about to occur. Hit Control S, please. Thank you. So we have now committed that record to the database.
Amazing.
It was amazing.
That was amazing.
That was amazing. Now, of course, we can do the same thing with foreign keys. If you scroll over, Chris, you can go change a foreign key relationship here. And you can see there's birds, and we can change the category and put it in some other, let's put it in the bugs or endangered.
Sure.
Go ahead and do that. Go ahead and, the nice thing about this is you don't have to go do the lookup on the other table. Then they get the value and then do the insert. But go ahead and hit save, please, on that. Let's go do something a little more interesting after, have you hit save?
I have.
Okay, great. All right, now let's go do something a little more interesting. Chris, what I'm going to need you to do is get the what do you call that thing, Explorer thing, over on the left-hand side, if you would, because we're going to need to access that in a few moments. Okay, great. Let's go open up the world's greatest IT Pro SQL tool in the world, or operations tool in the world, called SQL Server Management Studio. That answers the question. This tool is for IT pros and operations folks to interact with the database, which we love them. And we want to open this database up. And can you please open up that database? We'll go into our tables. We'll go to product, please. Right click, and let's do edit. And what this is going to do is just bring this up. All right, so Chris, could you please go in and change Pelican 2 to Pelican 3? Thank you. Can we commit that to the database? Wonderful. Can you please go back in the quadrant? Can you please show the table view, if you would, please? Please. Table. Thank you. All right. You'll notice nothing has changed. Nothing. What has happened is this. When we issue queries with Quadrant, we go to the database, we suck all that data in, and we stick it in our into the Quadrant database. And that, we actually eliminate a lot of the constraints that are on the data, so you can edit it in a free-form way, which we're about to show in just a few moments. So we take a query, we hold on to it, and we let the rest of the world continue unabated. It just went, went all to hell for all I know, but you don't see it impacting my environment at all. But if I want to go find out what has happened in the interim since my snapshot, that's actually very easy for me to do. Chris, could you go ahead and pull out product, please? This reruns the query against the base store, and you'll notice here, now I have a question mark. And this works across all the different data sets. But you'll notice it didn't change my data. My edit session, if it was still going, is still there. I'm still completely isolated from the rest of the world. And I have my own little private copy of the data. But the database, I know it's changed, and I know that I need to fix something up. At least eventually I need to go do that. Now, one of the things we'll show here is we're just going to go ahead and use the world's greatest gesture to refresh data, which is called F5, which means Quadrant, stop doing whatever you were doing. For all the views that are open right now, go refresh your cache. It's just like the web browser hitting F5. Chris, could you hit F5, please? You did that already. Great. And you can see that now we're picking up Pelican 3. By the way, this is a very trivial example to get these things out. This works over very complex data sets as well. OK, Chris, what we want to do now is get a conflict. And could you close one of the product windows, please?
Certainly.
And we want to edit our Pelican. Can we make it Pelican 4, please?
Yes, sir.
OK, great. Now let's go into SSMS and make it Pelican 5. Great. Commit, please. Now go back into Quadrant. All right.
So there's a little star.
We have edited. Let's see what has happened. We took a snapshot. We have a snapshot. What happened was I changed it, or Chris changed it, and then someone else, some randomo person, changed it in the underlying database. So now we should have a conflict. I want to commit this back and see what happens. Chris, could you hit Control S, please? That is the only use of color you will see in Quadrant. What that tells you is there is a conflict. That means the underlying database had changed. I tried to commit a value that was different from that. How did we know that? Because we track 3 values. Chris, show us the 3 values we track. We track the original value that you queried. Chris, can you zoom in on that, please?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We track the original value that we queried and we stored inside of our side database. We know what you wanted to commit to the database, which was 4, and we know what the underlying database was. So now you have the opportunity to decide what you want to do with the data. We can't be any smarter than surface up to you in a first-class way all these different conflicts and let you make decisions, business decisions often, on what data you want to keep inside of the store of record. But this is something people write, I don't know, countless applications.
I mean, what we've done here is built on top of the standard optimistic concurrency algorithm, right? This is what developers have to do all day, every day.
Yes.
But what we've done is we've built the best UI we could possibly think of to allow you to do the editing and to surface those changes and to let you choose which one you want to go forward with.
That's exactly right. Yet again, this theme of taking common tasks that you write in applications today, giving you first-class patterns inside of Quadrant, and then allowing you to work with that. So now I can select, and this works over large data sets. This is a trivial example. We can pick any of those three values. We can take the original, we can take the proposed, we can take the database one. Just pick one, Chris, and go ahead and hit. There we go. And all the conflicts have been resolved.
Yep.
So this feature has just been huge for us. And if you think about why we built this, it's pretty obvious when you want to store more and more of the application runtime metadata in a single repository. Because you have multiple users hitting that database all at the same time. And we didn't want to have every tool in the world be built up in order to handle these optimistic concurrency things. So yet again, we're trying to provide a tool that you can take and customize for your particular data set that gives you all these features, like master detail, like view composition, like editing. OK, great.
It says here we invented model-based zooming.
That's great. I should get a patent on that. All right. So the next thing we want to do is show something a little more complex, showing an insert.
There was one actual question. Can you emify an existing database?
Absolutely. We have tools that are inside the CTP, I believe. Someone in the audience who knows more than me, which is a lot of you, know there is a tool that we ship inside of the CTP that can look at an existing database and pull out the M. OK, great. So in the interest of time, we got a motor. Let's go and open up our database to show the editing really quickly.
Sure.
Yes, go there. All right, let's, oh, you got to open, new session.
Yeah.
OK, great. So what we're going to do is open up a very simple database we've created to show off another pretty interesting feature of Quadrant. And this is where we're going to show the robustness of the engine as well, or rather the tool. So this is the Pet Shop 4 order entry database. Chris, could you go ahead and open that up, please? Thank you. Let's go ahead and pull out orders, if you would. OK. So this is orders. Orders is a trivial thing. But orders has nice referential integrity. So we have a foreign key that we have that's pointing back up to orders, and then we have a foreign key that's pointing down that is into the items list. So this is one of these things of where literally you would have to go write some code in order to be able to insert records into this database just because of the referential integrity and the constraints that you have. Like this is literally you would have to write code to go do what we're about to do. So Chris, I want to go add a new record, please, if we could. Insert item. What that does, and this UI is not done, it's still undergoing usability testing. It pops up a new window here, and we can create another order. And then we can select an order status. So Chris, could you pull down order status, if you would, please? So I don't know why we're missing two, but that's fine. We can create a new order status. Go ahead and do that, Chris. Can you create a new order status, please? OK, and then scroll over and give that a name, if you would. Let's just call it ordered or something. OK, great. So what's interesting about this now is if Chris goes back and he clicks on order status, can you click on order status, please, the drop down? Here, I'll come over here to direct you. Click on this right here.
This bad boy.
Yes, please. OK, you'll notice that the new ID is in there, and then you also see my status. Now, what's interesting about this is if we go query the database right now, can you go pull out the orders again, please? Let's go query the database. OK. What you see here is two separate views. One view is the view of the database. The other view that we have up here is the underlying view that we have in terms of our database that we have on the side preparing to insert data into that operational store. We haven't committed it yet. Every time we query that thing, it doesn't exist. However, we are sitting on this thing. Can you go ahead and pick the order status, please? Did you pick that? Just pick it. There you go. Perfect. Okay, great. You're done. You're done. There's a bug. OK, bug. All right. Just to get the point across, Chris, this is what I want you to do. Can you please kill Quadrant? Just kill it.
So you mean like Alt F4?
No, I mean like go kill the process.
So you mean like?
No, process. We don't have time. We don't have time. We don't have time. Just kill the process.
Kill it hard.
Kill it hard. All right. We just killed it. Now, any other app in the world any other app in the world, I just lost all my data. I lost all of it, right? But not Quadrant. Go ahead and run Quadrant again, please.
It's asking me if I would like to reset.
You don't want to do that.
I don't.
No, and this won't be this is a feature for developers in the CTP.
Yes.
Okay, what's going on now is Quadrant is going, when we boot Quadrant, we go and we look at the Quadrant database, and we go see if there's edit sessions that were pending, views that were pending, et cetera. Chris, go ahead and it didn't work. This worked last night. Okay, well, had this worked, what you would have seen happen was the entire edit session would have been there still. We'll go chase down what happened there. And then you could commit that directly to the database. Okay, great. So we're almost out of time, Chris, and that, what would be, that's the hat trick. There we go. 3 exceptions. Thank you very much.
Apparently that guy's been to our talks before.
Yeah, he's been, there you go.
Yeah.
Hand that to him. I'll get you one, too. Thank you. All right. Great. So now, Chris, let's do one more thing.
Now, to be fair, Doug, right? I mean, it did remember a lot.
Yeah, that was good. It still lost all my data, so they hate us. All right. All right. Let's go next, really quickly.
We did say a future version of
the production version of Quadrant will do this.
Yes.
All right, great. So the next thing we want to do, Chris, really quickly, can you close all these windows? We want to very quickly show 2 different things. And then we'll be done.
What would you like to see, Doug?
I would like to open up the Pet Shop database, please.
Okay.
All right. This is what we're going to do. We are going to drag out products. And Chris, remember before we showed you how we built up that master detail view?
I remember.
You remember that? So that was just drag and drop, no code. But of course we know most of you are developers. Most of you were like, oh, fine, drag, drop, whatever. Show me how I can go and customize this environment. We're going to show you 2 ways of doing it, and then we're going to show you a richer example of what we've done in terms of ad hoc applications. So you see a view here. What we want to do is we've taken this query bar. You can query anywhere in Quadrant. We took that from the web. We took F5 from the web, which is about refreshing. We took another awesome feature of the web. Chris, can you please view source on this table? That is the M. Oh, there we go, clap. That is the M for that view. Every bit of views that you see inside of Quadrant are records in a database that you can get access to. You could have opened up T-SQL and changed this view, OSQL. You could have opened up whatever SQL tool you'd wanted. But what we've done is we have said, hey, look, developers love text. Developers really want to be able to go, how did they create that cool view? How did they build that? I want to know how to do that. In the web, how you learned that was you hit view source and you stole it.
No. At Microsoft, we like the term leverage.
Remember, Bob's in the audience. I'm going to get an email. What this does is show you all the view configurations that we've done that you can go and modify directly. So, Chris, can we just do something very trivial? Like maybe change the background color?
Yeah, I set the background color, and I took out the product ID because I didn't want to look at it, and I spelled description out.
Okay, great.
I changed category ID.
Let's go ahead and put this in the database if we could. So here's how this is even better than the web. In the web, you could do view source, find out how a view worked, and then you could steal it and put it on your website. This is even better because you can do view source, find out what we did, and then change it. You don't like a view that we created for you? Well, guess what? View source, change it, put it back in the database. Yet again. Well, there we go. More claps. We think this is a powerful feature. We're going to let you, are you doing it? Okay, thank you. So what do you get? With Quadrant, you get the ability to do master detail views, all this view composition you normally write apps for, boom, it's right there. You also need to leverage optimistic concurrency, conflict detection, massive data sets, et cetera. Boom, it's in the tool. You don't like the views that we have at all, you want to get at the text and you want to modify the views to your heart content, boom, it's in the tool. There we go, green. We would get fired if Brad saw this. Anyway, so you see this, so we can do very, very simple things. What are you doing?
Well, we've only got 1 minute, 8 seconds.
Oh, yeah, we got to go. Quest. All right, great. So view source. Last but not least, we're going to show how this applies to SQL Azure 2. Every single thing that we just showed you works with SQL Azure 2. Modulo bugs, but yes, there's some claps. Bugs. So what Chris is doing is he's opening up Northwind. Northwind, our canonical database, although I'm not allowed to say that. I'm supposed to say AdventureWorks. We got to hurry, we got to hurry, got to hurry. Say remember password, go.
I'm moving the mouse. I can't go any faster.
Okay, great. So this is the Northwind database. This is accessible for you. You see it. It's inside a Quadrant. The beauty of this is we can create master detail views, query over top of that data set, edit that data set to our heart's content, all without writing a single line of code or writing an application at all.
And this is all in SQL Azure.
And this is all in SQL Azure. Every bit of this, number one, 2 proof points. Northwind runs on SQL Azure. 2, Quadrant lets you access Northwind richer than any other application has been able to do, I can safely claim in history.
Wow.
All right, great. So the last thing we want to show, because we are officially out of time, but everybody can stay with us. One of the things that Quadrant is really good at doing is this notion of ad hoc applications. So many of you go and you just hack up an app. You got to go do something for a department. You've got to go get something out. You got to crank the thing out. And you really just want to get that over with and get that out to your end users as fast as you can. We're the same way inside of Microsoft. We have a bunch of what we call ad hoc applications that spring up everywhere. But we want those ad hoc applications to be able to scale up, to be able to go under IT management. And what we've done is, Chris is installing right now one of the apps that we personally use inside of our team in order to track tasks and some different things that are going on. And we run that directly inside a Quadrant, just like we would Access. In fact, if you want to walk out of here with a meme, Quadrant is Access for SQL Server. That's it. You did. So can we go ahead and run it? Mm-hmm. Did we run it?
Yeah, we're just waiting for a Quadrant start.
OK, great. So what Chris is going to do is he's going to open up, I think you jammed it in the repository, right, just for this?
What's that?
It's in just the repository.
Repository.
OK, great.
Bet.
So Chris is going to show you a task application, a task list application that we use inside of the team. Go ahead and pull out people, if you would, please.
Now, to be clear, we actually use this.
Yes, we really use this app. OK, go ahead and show the card view, please.
And try not to look at the phone numbers directly.
Oh, you didn't edit the phone numbers?
I edited the phone numbers.
Oh, OK, great.
8675309.
There we go.
What a coincidence.
So this is an app that we built just utilizing the very basic view composition, the view source. It's a card view, and we edit this thing all day long. And each one of these things is actually a query. Every single thing you see on the screen is a query. Chris, can you drag out my task? I'd love to see what I'm assigned.
Sure. Your one task.
My one task. Go ahead and drag that out. And then what am I supposed to do? Should we open source areas to help with? Well, this is revealing strategy, I'm sure. Hang on, did you create a new one?
Yeah.
All right, what are you saying? Give Chris a raise. You guys, it sounds like there's some support for doing that. So one thing that we'll show really quickly, Chris, can you go and I want to show the task by with the filter real quick?
Oh, yes, that's lovely. So let's pull out Steve's task, because he's got a bunch.
OK, Steve's got a bunch. You can tell Steve is one of our most prolific developers. And what we can do is we have a view that we've created here. Go ahead and pull that out. Do filtered tasks. And what this does is give you a filter view on top of this, where you've got filter by area. And you'll see this happen a lot in lots of applications where you just want to do simple filtering and sorting, et cetera. And Quadrant just lets you do this with very, very minimal amount of view source. So the key thing that we want to get to is most scenarios you can view source over.
I mean, these aren't apps that we had to build.
No.
We just took the data and we did some composition. And we did some view source, and we put some stuff back in the data. And
it just worked.
And yeah, this is the term you coined that I love, which is ad hoc application.
It's an ad hoc app. You're sitting around one day, and guess what? An app emerged.
Yeah.
So one of the things we didn't get to show is the fact that you can plug in .NET code in here all day long via our add-in model. That's part of the CTP. Unfortunately, we ran out of time.
And you can build them into commands, and you put them in the menus.
We follow the WPF commanding thing completely. Chris, can you flop back to the slides really quickly?
Sure.
And so we are done. That is Quadrant. Thank you so much. All of what you saw is available at this URL.